Boom. All right. So I won't take up too much of your time. I'm just uh, mainly all I'm doing is trying to make a little bit more awareness of the grow space and the overall change in cannabis culture. And I also want to give exposure to people that are actually up and coming out here in this industry, but also have community and well-being, really ingrained into the fabric of what they're doing. And I only know about you because of my neighbor next door stopped in. I live in Seneca Falls, stopped in, and he said that it had a great experience at your store. So I went on, looked at, and I read your story, and I was like, yeah, no, this is exactly what I'm trying to do. And to grab some information from you and to hopefully provide, sorry about that, hopefully provide again, a little bit more exposure to what you're doing and your story, help maybe drive business or at least get your name out there more. I mean, I don't know of any other hydroponic store, really, supply store outside of going up to Rochester or Syracuse or down to Ithaca. So it was welcomed. I mean, not everything can be bought on Amazon, you know.
Absolutely. And it kind of just happened the way it did for me. So, you know a little bit about my story from what you've seen, but I'll give you a little bit more background on it. So I was a police officer for 11 years, and I left law enforcement in 2019. So I finally had enough. I could just start seeing the writing on the wall. Like there was no, I loved the job still. I just hated the direction that it was going in. And I started because I wanted to help people. I wanted to make a difference, like most cops do. Like 99% of the guys that are out there just want to do a good thing. So when it started to change and started to see how things were, for me, it just wasn't worth it. So my wife had a business at the time, and she was growing rapidly. She was still working full-time at a regular job and a business. So she finally went full-time to that, and I just decided that I was done. So I wanted to do something different. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I had somewhat of a construction background. So I started doing small jobs, side jobs, construction, just to see how everything would go on that. And in the meantime, I worked for a pipeline, doing like natural gas and like 12-inch pipelines, 24-inch, 30, stuff like that. So hard work. And I realized that sucked. I really didn't want to do that the rest of my life. So I started a construction business, and I started to actually press on it a little bit to see how it worked. And then COVID happened. So the good thing with that is COVID really helped me for my business because everything was word of mouth. I never really advertised for anything. So it was, I'd do a job for somebody else and they would refer me to somebody else and it would lead to something else. So even in the whole time that I had my construction business, I hardly ever advertised, and it was all word of mouth and things were great. So we actually killed it during COVID. So fast forward to 2022, I was actually probably 2021. My construction business was expanding exponentially, and I was looking to do like heavier stuff. Like I wanted to do heavy equipment operation and like swimming pool install, stuff like that. So I actually bought a brand new skid steer from Bobcat, and I was waiting for it. And finally, after 9 months, I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I canceled that, and I'm like, well, what do I want to do to make my business or to invest in a business? What can I do? So let me back up a little bit on how I got into cannabis, and it'll tie all in together. So I left law enforcement in 2019. In 2021, it was my second year in business for the construction business. We were killing it. Everything was going great. But it was July of 2021. I just couldn't function. Like I just couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move. I was depressed. I was anxious. Like something was wrong and I didn't know what it was. So once my wife finally got me to get out of bed, I started talking to a therapist and trying to get different options. I mean, I was in the military. I was a police officer. Like I have it, PTSD, anxiety, you name it, I got it. So, all they wanted to do is prescribe me a lot of medication. So because I'm not one to take medication, like I don't even like to take Advil, honestly. So I wanted to look at alternative medications. I'd never smoked weed before. Never once as a police officer did I ever take somebody's weed or steal weed or all those cliches that people hear. I never saw it and I never did it. You know what I mean? Like, I worked with a really good group of guys for the most part everywhere that I worked. But anyway, fast forward to the medication side. So I started looking at alternative medications. So my research led me to cannabis and mushrooms. I knew a little bit about cannabis, but I didn't know a lot, and I didn't know anything about mushrooms other than like, oh, they're scary, don't do them. You know what I mean? So
Right. Yeah.
I avoided that. So I really started looking, and I wanted to try cannabis to see if it would help with my issues. So I started looking into it, and I really got into like the genetics of it, like the strains and the science and the terpenes and the different effects that it has on people. I'm like, wow, that's actually incredible. And then I found that the cannabis plant is remarkably similar to the human body and how we react to things, like the nutrition that we need and how it works, you know? So I really got deep into that. And I talked to one of my buddies and I tried, and weed helped, but it wasn't what I was hoping for it to be. So I figured that maybe if I can get these genetics the way I want to and try this specific strain that I saw. So I started growing my own, and I just fell in love with it. And I found just as much therapy in growing as I did with the end result, honestly. Like, just taking a seed of nothing and turning it into this beautiful flowering, budding plant. Like, and that was just my first grow. Like, that wasn't even anything crazy or impressive, honestly. It was it was something. So I got the itch, and I started looking into it and doing more and more. And about I'd say probably 6 months later, the whole skid steer thing happened. So I'm like, man, what do I want to do? So I decided to take the money from the skid steer and open up a hydroponic store. I knew nothing about hydroponics. I knew nothing about growing. Really, it was the whole reason that I did it is I saw where I was located. So I'm just outside of Canandaigua. So there was nothing around me. There was no hydro stores. There was none of that. Like, I moved out here 2020. So I was from Spencerport before. So the only hydro store that I knew was the one in Spencerport. So I reached out to that guy. I said, hey, can you help me out? You want to do this? Blah, blah. He's like, yeah. No. So I decided to open my own store, you know? So I opened my store, and believe it or not, it was not welcomed at first at all in the cannabis community when everybody found out that I was a police officer before. So even to this day, I have customers that won't even come into my store because they're like, oh, you used to be a cop, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's crazy. So I leaned on that. Instead of scaring everybody away, I leaned into it and tell everybody my experiences. So because I was on the other side of it, I was on the illegal side of it, I was on the enforcement side of it, I can see the differences. Like, just because I did a job doesn't mean that I didn't realize that people are people. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Absolutely.
The 11 years that I was a police officer, there's not one single time that I can ever recall that I had to fight with somebody who was stoned, ever. You know what I mean? It was always alcohol, or it was always when you Narcan somebody, when they wake back up, they'd be swinging. Like, but cannabis was never an issue. So even when it was illegal, I didn't have an issue with it just because we had other things to deal with, like DWIs or heroin overdoses or burglaries or stuff like that. So it was really crazy. So maybe it was just the way that I was brought up by the old timers. Like, the time that I started, I learned from a lot of the old guys. So it's funny, we kind of call it the pre-Obama and the post-Obama era. So I learned from the pre-Obama guys, and I started before Obama was president. And it was the guys that I learned from were like, don't give people a hard time. Like, you're here for the community. You got to give people breaks. Like, you don't need to be a hard ass. So that's the guys that I learned from. So weed wasn't one of those things. It's you take it, you throw it in the weeds, you're out. You know, it is what it is. Right. Yep. So during the years of the Obama administration, they had a crackdown on law enforcement, and nobody could be trusted all of a sudden. So it went from us being able to take the weed and throw it in the weeds to now every time I touch anything, I need to do a report on it, and I need to log it into evidence, and I need to do some blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't worth my time. So to be completely frank with you, like, there would be times where there'd be weed in the car. I know that I could see weed in the car, and I'm not even going to ask the question, because unless it's leading to something else, like, I'm not looking to screw somebody's day up. You know what I mean? Like, so that was my whole experience with cannabis on the illicit side. Now, don't get me wrong. I have arrested people for cannabis before, but it wasn't for that. It was always in addition to somebody else. Like, somebody wants to be an asshole. Well, you want to get extra charges? That could be an extra charge, you know, but it's just one of those things where I never had a negative connotation, even with law enforcement. You know, I was never that guy that's like chomping at the bit, like, oh, I got to go and get drugs out of cars. I mean, it was, but it wasn't cannabis, you know?
Right. Yeah.
There's much
There's
worse things that are out there.
plenty
So,
of worse things.
yeah, exactly. So from that side of it, I can actually talk to people, and even people that I used to work with in law enforcement that are still in law enforcement had an issue with me doing this because like, oh, it's like you're playing for the other team now. But that's not the case. It's just I was knowledgeable enough, I guess, to take the time and educate myself for it. You know, like instead of taking everybody else's word for what it is, do a little research on my own. Like I think that's the problem with 90% of the world is do a little research on your own. You know what I mean? Like find out what's real and what works for you. Like I could give you just as many articles that I've read showing the negative effects of cannabis, and then I can show you a ton that have the positive effects of it. But it really depends what's the credibility, what's the legitimacy of it, what makes sense. Like, you got to take those next steps and go down the rabbit hole. And that's what I've envisioned homegrown hydroponics to be is I don't know it all, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to share what I've learned and my experiences with it. Like I want to keep learning as much as I can about the plant. Like it's a zero waste plant from everything that you do. I mean, literally everything. And you can use it for a lot of different reasons. You know, like if Big Pharma didn't have such a hold on the community and the country and the world as a whole, people could grow their own medication. Like my whole reason for starting to grow medication is I had PTSD, I have anxiety, I have depression, and I have lower back pain. So I wanted to find and genetically make a plant that could hit on all four of those aspects. Have I found it yet? I'm pretty damn close, but I haven't gotten it exactly where I want it to be yet. So, but we can keep working. But eventually I'll have a plant that works for me. It'll probably work for somebody else and it'll work for somebody else, but it won't work for everybody, you know? And that's what we can't be ignorant about in the cannabis space either is just because we can show it's good about it, there's still bad about it too. You know, anybody that comes into my store and I try to educate about, they're like, well, what's the highest THC I can grow? Or what's the highest content I can get for this? And it really means nothing in the eyes of reality for me anyway, is it's no different than somebody who's a wine connoisseur or a whiskey connoisseur, right? So they look for the flavors, the smells, the effects, all that kind of thing. And you can do the same thing in weed, because if it was just about the alcohol content, any connoisseur in the world would be drinking everything, right? Mm-hmm. And it's no different with weed. Like I've been to California and I've had 38% weed and I've had 12% weed. And honestly, the 12% was better than the 38%. And we all know how that marketing game works. So I look at it as trying to get the most out of everything you can and moderation for everything. You know, 2 Tylenol is good, a whole bottle is not. It's no different than with cannabis. You know, like I could smoke all day because I'm not getting super high. I smoke to level out. I can help with my anxiety or my pain or whatever I'm feeling that day. A couple of puffs, a couple of hits, I can be leveled out way quicker than it ever could for me to take a couple pills and be anxious as hell with my wife for the next 2 days and always on edge, you know? So,
but you go about your business like almost like that.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah. It's just an alternative medicine. And that's how I have to look at it and explain it to people is it's not a drug, or it is a drug, but it is a medication at the same time. The biggest difference between a drug and a medicine is abuse. You know, if you abuse anything, it could become a problem. And it's no different with cannabis. We just can't have this broad blanket statement of, oh, cannabis is safe or cannabis is good. That's not the case. You know, it's not, and it's not the case for everybody either. So, you know, like just because it works for a good amount of people doesn't mean it works for everybody, you know, like,
yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, the first thing that popped out to me that you were saying is that you got a lot of pushback in this area. It sort of blows my mind because it's not like you're just picking it up and you're going in there to make a quick buck or anything. I mean, you're trying to make a living still, right. But you took the time, and people don't just open stores and know stuff because they started it yesterday. So it's almost as if they, like, whoever it was probably is a negative person in life anyway. You know, they're not really even someone that the space needs, period. You know,
quite honestly,
probably the people that are looking for the 38%, you know, all the time, you know,
and it's just ignorance, you know, like what it comes down to is ignorance. Like anybody who talks to me for 5 minutes will immediately know that I'm not the stereotypical douchebag cop that just wants to ruin your day. Or I wasn't, you know, like I know talk is cheap for a lot of people, but once you start talking to somebody, even after 5-10 minutes, you get a good feel of how that person is. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
overall. So I think it's people are too quick to judge. But the flip side of that is I caught a lot of heat in the beginning from it, and I still do from people, but I don't need everybody as a customer. I shouldn't say that as a business owner, but I don't need negative people coming into my store and starting problems. Like I've kicked people out before because I don't need the drama and the headache. Like I left that
Right.
world long ago. I don't want to deal with that, and I don't need to deal with it. So the plus side of it is there was people that have seen the articles that have come out about me being a police officer, and they're like, I have people come into my store like, hey, I read your article. I saw you were a police officer. I really trust you. Like I really, if there's any store I wanted to start with, it'd be you. And not saying I'm the best store at all or around at all, because I'm not. There's better growers by far. You know what I mean? But I'm honest with people. If I don't know something, I don't know it, but I'll try to figure out the answer for you. You know, and I think that goes a lot further than somebody who's cocky and arrogant and says, "Oh, I know everything about everything, and we're just gonna compete, and it is what it is." It's great, you know. But the cannabis industry is this big right now in a world that's this big, and there's so much that everybody can be a part of it that there's no reason for competition.
Right, right. Even with, you know, it being descheduled or rescheduled, I should say, you know, it's still a drug, as you said, and the people that are looking out there for that 38% still view it as 100%. I just want to get, like, you know, effed up. It's people like you that are willing to tell a story like that in the cases in which you need this plant. I do the same thing. I have anxiety, you know, I have carpal tunnel with neuropathy, and so I have my medical card as well, so I can grow. But I'm not sitting here just trying to get blitzed all day long. You know,
Right.
I may take that puff or that 2 puffs and go about my day because I recognize that in maybe 10 minutes, I'm going to have that relief. I'm
Right.
going to be able to be level-headed and walk around and not really let everything bother me. So I appreciate that. I 100%. I think it's awesome that you're willing to go out and tell the story like that. I mean, I would think, you know, growing up, saying that you were a cop, yeah, that probably kicked some people off of wanting to come into your store. But the fact that you have people coming in saying that because of that, I trust you a little bit more, you know,
Right.
it's using that what you might have thought in the beginning was a detriment or a downfall. It ultimately you kept what you were doing going, and it's proved to be a benefit. So,
Yeah,
and
I definitely took a big risk by going all in on that. But at the same point, like I have customers who are police officers. I have customers who are retired police officers. I mean, I have a bunch of troopers that are retired that came in,
right.
And it wasn't because I knew them before, but I could tell you right now, law enforcement is a very, very small, chatty community. So the fact that it's been almost 5 years now since I left law enforcement, and we just hit our 2-year anniversary last week. So over the last 2 years, there's a lot of people, if there's not every department in the area knows my story of Cop the Crop, you know, because
That's
small PDs,
awesome slogan.
they always talk to everybody about it, you know? So, and I'm okay with that. The good thing is I always had a good reputation. I never screwed anybody. I was never unfair to anybody. I never did anything that was manipulative. Like I just wasn't that cop, you know? So the guys that know me and that worked with me, they can fight that battle for me. I don't have to, you know, like
Right.
it's just, it's all it comes down to. So those guys that come to my shop now, they're like, hey, talk to so-and-so and so-and-so. And I came to your shop. Well, now I have credibility showing like I'm not a scumbag in the industry. Like you said, I'm not just this guy that's trying to come in and make a ton of money and bounce real quick. Like I'm planting roots. Like my store is growing. My wife's store is growing exponentially. Like it's crazy. And all we're doing is just trying to do the right thing by people, you know, like it's amazing how crazy that is, but just do what's right.
Yeah, no, I cop to crop, that blows my mind. Like, oh, that's awesome. Like
Right.
you felt you got that one, and that one's good. It did when I first read your story. It did, like in my head, it said like, oh, it does not compute. Like I couldn't put the two together at first, but after I read through it, it really did fit. Not saying that that's like a mold, but I could see how everything that you've done, starting with the military, going into that, and then even, you know, the home improvement. I don't have a construction background, but it's because I help like my dad or my brother, and I just want to pull my hair out doing it. So
Sure.
I, the anxiety of that, like, oh shit, are they going to be happy with what I did? Or damn, I didn't get it looking perfect. I
Right.
can see how things just happen. I mean, you're meant to be where you are right now.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I firmly believe that for everybody, you're meant to be where you are right now. So it's good to see something as powerful as that be able to break some stigmas too, because as this space grows, it's more and more people, more and more groups that are out there are gonna start implementing something from this. I mean, I'm looking at some products out there. I don't know if you've heard about them. Root Nerds has the Aurora Plus Germinator.
Yep.
I mean, school applications for those things. Instead of having to sit and wait and watch your seeds sprout in a paper towel while it might be fun, that's an extra 4 days you get back to teach these kids something else or dive deeper into this whole horticulture, agriculture side of things, because not everybody's a doctor. Nobody. I'm lucky enough to live in a small town here in Seneca Falls where there's farms still around. So not everywhere is. So I'm trying to talk to them as well about, trying to break stigmas by like donations of things to schools or something to that effect, and community presence. And that's awesome. It's the greatest thing. What would you think is your biggest user base? It's obviously probably not police officers, but do you get like more people doing just like home growing of vegetables, flowers, fruits, or is it cannabis?
Yeah, I'd say probably 85%, 90% is cannabis based. That's just the customer base. But the nice thing is, and that was probably only 1% 2 years ago or last year. So
Mhm.
I have blueberry farmers currently. I have grape farmers. I have microgreen farmers. And the coolest farmer that I have is a 14-year-old kid who has a Venus flytrap farm. Like he's growing Venus flytraps. And there's
Huh.
another carnivorous plant that he's growing. It has vines and it goes and chases the flies and stuff. Like it's cool. Like I have customers from 14 years old to I have a 92-year-old lady that came in last year and said, "Hey, weed's legal now. I want to learn how to grow it." So there's really no like rhyme or reason, but it's we're more towards the homeowner side or the DIYer than we are the commercial side for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but I think that comes with my experience too. Like a lot of those farmers come in and ask for education and things to run. Like I don't have the ability or the knowledge to run a commercial operation like that. I just don't.
Mhm.
When I love to be able to help them out, I'll try. But when it comes to being the expert in commercial, I'm just not that guy yet. We'll get there, but for now, it's
Yeah.
just it's people that are growing the 6 plants or less. I mean, we have a couple of people that maybe do 10 or 12, but I'd say the most part, like even myself, I only have 6 plants growing or 5 plants growing right now. I'm going to start putting my outdoors out. I'm probably only going to do 4 plants outside, like just because I have the ability to do it. Like everybody that comes in, they're like, I can't imagine what your fields look like or your grows look like. Just because I have the ability to do it
Mhm.
doesn't mean I do. Like I still enjoy the fun of it and the experience of the therapeutic side of it. Where I've had larger grows before, and by larger I mean like 15, 20 plants, which is large for
Right.
me. And it got to be not fun. It
A lot of
wasn't as
work.
enjoyable. It was work. So I backed that down a little bit and I try to stay in that sweet spot of where it keeps me happy because I find with my customers when somebody comes in, I don't want to sell them a bunch of shit that they're not going to need.
Mhm.
I've been into hydro stores that if you don't use this, you're not going to grow right. Or you got to have this expensive light and you got to have this like that's all bullshit. The biggest
Right.
thing for me is I want my customers to learn how to grow as a whole, whether it's fruits and vegetables or cannabis or anything. I want everybody to learn how to grow as a whole. So in 1960, there was a study done that 80% of the country, the United States, grew their own food. As of 2020, less than 1% of our country grows their own food. Like that's a scary statistic to think about.
Yeah.
And I look around and modern day youth doesn't know how to grow. They don't know farming. They don't know basics. And even most adults, like friends that I have, don't know how to do that stuff. So I'm just trying to get the word out there. Like it's a great skill. Go. go do something. It'll be a hobby for you. It's a very rewarding hobby. I mean, I have people that even come in and grow weed that don't even smoke. Just they're like, I love growing it and I give it away to people. Like, there's something about the plant that's just magical.
Weed angels.
Yeah. Weed angels.
No,
right?
that's I like like what you said as well about it. You get too many of them, it's actual work.
Mhm.
I'm only doing it for me to smoke, and that's how it's always been for me. I've had enough to hold me over, and so I haven't had to step foot in a New York dispensary. I went to one when I got my medical card because it's like, okay, I got to in New York. But since that, I mean, it's been 5, 6 years. I haven't walked into a dispensary, even when it's been recreational, because I haven't needed to. And
Right.
that's the difference, I think, until there's people who can just say, like, I'll just do it for myself, it's still going to be looked at as like a really bad drug in some of those staunch sided people. That's terrible because it does allow other people to actually get into the different aspects of agriculture.
Yep.
Not that I'm going to go out and show my 6-year old how I'm trimming up buds or something, but he might see that I'm mixing something in the house, or I'm sitting there like I made a CO2 generator for my tent. What's that? Like, oh, it's just CO2. Plants live off of CO2, buddy. It's like, oh, okay. So I don't know if he's ever going to remember that, but maybe summertime's coming. He'll want to go outside. We got seeds from school. I threw him
Yep.
in that Aurora Plus germinator. Wants to see him. Let's go check on him. Like, okay, cool. So now we've got something to do outside. It's just, it opens the door. And I don't know if it didn't go legal, I don't know if I would have be even seen any of these things out there. I probably wouldn't have made that. I wouldn't have bought the Aurora Plus.
Right. I probably
Would
wouldn't either. I mean, I probably wouldn't still be a police officer, but who knows? You know?
Right. Yeah. I think it's ultimately a chain reaction, and it's going to help everybody everywhere, whether they like it or not, because the people are gonna. We didn't really have it the way we wanted to in New York. It would have been better if we voted for it versus it just being an executive order. But there's states that are voting for it, and that shows, in everybody around wanting something different, wanting to not have to worry about getting addicted to a hydrox or a hydrocodone or whatever they are. So, because
Yeah.
that shit's scary. That shit's scary, and I'm the same way with you. My wife's a therapist, and I tell her I don't want to take any of those drugs. Like, scare me, man, scare me. So it's definitely refreshing to have a like-minded person so close that is as vocal with their story as I'm trying to be as well. We're gonna break stigmas, man, and you haven't that presence out there is awesome. I haven't been into your story yet, but I am very interested about the things that you have or your offerings. The testing, I didn't even know that was a thing. I have a buddy who also, like, right around the same time I heard about you, tested some for me. I'm like, I didn't know this was a thing. Like, you could do this. He's like, oh yeah, you get this shit on Amazon. It's a machine. And I was like, what? Holy shit.
Yeah.
And then I saw you had it. I was like, holy fuck. When I was like getting into it, never know what you have, you never knew what you were buying or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
You
having
used to
that is super cool.
or stems and seeds were part of the package. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you didn't even, like, you, God forbid you grew one though,
Right.
holy shit, I fucking parents would kill you, let alone fucking getting caught. But your classes, I think those are pretty crazy because no one offers that I've seen anywhere, even in the stores up that I've been in Rochester or Syracuse. Do you have good turnouts for those?
So we have a great turnout when we do them. The problem is I am like hyper scatterbrained all the time. So
Okay.
I don't have enough time to actually sit down and do the classes as much as I want to, but I am working on it right now. Chris, one of my employees, is really interested in teaching some of the classes.
Hmm.
And quite honestly, he's probably more knowledgeable than me. And he started a year and a half ago as a customer in my store, and he just got the bug more than I did, and he just absolutely gets it. So he's going to be a really good addition when he starts teaching classes. But we're trying to get right now. We're working on an online class, so it's going to be a 10 to 12 part class from seed to finish. So we have every aspect of the classes that are online. That's my biggest focus right now, and part of the reason why we haven't been working on the in-store classes. But now that it is picking up, I know Jamie, one of the guys that works for me, has been pushing me. Like we've had having people ask, we need to get the classes going. So it's partially on me just because I have too much on my plate. But the crazy thing is there's so many fun things to do, and just trying to focus it all into what works now. Like right now in my store, I probably quadrupled my inventory since probably last year at this time. So our store is stuffed full. We're getting more and more stuff every day. We're organizing all of our racks out back, all of our storage stuff, like just little tedious stuff that I try to build correctly from the beginning. So then we can just go, like I don't typically want to half-ass anything. I try to set the groundwork and then we can build off it, so
Right.
That's where a lot of it's been. Our growth over the last 2 years has been absolutely insane. It's hard to believe it's only been 2 years from the way it was. Like I was just looking at the analytics. I remember when I first started, there'd be days, if not weeks sometimes, where a single customer wouldn't even come in. And we're averaging between 15 to 20 customers a day right now. So it's crazy just the amount of people that know we're here. And I can't wait to see where the future goes with it.
Yeah, no, that's crazy from going like bottom to 20. That's nice. That's cool. That's those conversations as well, the knowledge that might get passed down, that between those little things, the here or there, or somebody not finding something or knowing something was there. Do you have everything on your website, or are there some things here and there that are like, you just might find, oh, it's a special thing right there, you found it?
Most things are on our website. Most things that are in store are on our website. So we're one of the only stores in the area. If not, I know we're one of like 8 in the country right now that has an actual hydroponic store that has a website attached to it. So our inventory is linked to the online website. So if it shows online, we have it in the store. 99 times out of 100. I mean, there's glitches here and there, but most of the time the inventory is pretty accurate.
Nice. What do you think your best seller is? Oh, really? You just started. Cool. Very cool. That'll drum it up. There's good shipping practices, and speed is hard to find when you're trying to buy something online that's not Amazon, unfortunately.
Right.
I bought a couple years ago, I bought a pretty nice HLG light, and I think it took 2-3 weeks to get here. It's like, damn, I understand it's a big light and stuff, but when you're paying for shipping, on something like that you expect to get it pretty quick. So yeah, if that's any little tip you get from the outside world, is shipping's more important almost than the price sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
If you're planning
Amazon
around something. Yeah, no, Amazon, it's hard, man. But Amazon doesn't sell, certain things. I've seen AC Infinity things that are on their website that Amazon doesn't have, like some of their fans, some of their controllers. They don't always have them on Amazon. And sometimes it's even quicker to just buy them right from AC than it is to buy them from them.
And honestly,
the return policy you can't beat for Amazon. That's a hard one to beat there, because people send shit back just to get new shit, just, oh, I'm going to beat the hell out of this for 30 days and then get a brand new one. It's done a lot.
It has. I get a lot of price hunters that come in. They're like, well, on Amazon, it's $1 cheaper. I'm like, well, I'm not a billion-dollar corporation. I can't. I don't know.
You wasted more money than that to come here and try to find it. You should have just bought it there. Damn.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have customers like that. But I'd say like 98% of our customers, 99% of our customers are absolutely amazing. Like, it's a good feel. It's a nice, it's a welcoming environment. Our store is super clean. My whole vision behind the store was to try to make it welcoming. So there's a lot of hydro stores that you can go into. It's pretty much the same cookie cutter design. You know what I mean? Like, it's dark in there. There's product that you don't know about. There's a bunch of people hanging out at the desk, probably smoking, and you're afraid to ask questions as the new guy. Like, I wanted that welcoming environment. So that's what I set up for,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. What do you think your best seller is there?
I'd say soil right now. We sell a ton of soil, a lot of it.
What's your What's your brand range? I saw you have Root Organics. Do you have anything else like it's an old brand
Because I don't have that, but we have almost all the Fox Farm line, most of the Roots Organics line, the entire Bio 365 line, Coast of Maine. We have Eastern Worms, Living Soil. So we got a bunch of different. I'm sure there's a couple others I can't think of, but
Very cool. Very cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Oh, have you ever thought of, with your construction background, actually doing and I thought about doing this not because I have a construction background, but I just thought like there's not any of this, and maybe this will get your brain moving. Construction background, building spaces for people that are for now medically certified to be able to grow it without getting. Everyone I talk to is like, well, no, it's legal for you to grow. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not yet. Like, you have to have your card still. No,
Right.
no, no. I'm like, well, you haven't read it yet. You haven't read it right then. So, have you ever thought of that? Like that be
Yes.
something unique? Because see you sell kits and everybody sells their kits and stuff, but actual rooms being built out has always been like a fascination of just seeing them for me. Like, I build them with fucking plastic when I was little and stuff, just to have it nice. But the tents are cool, but rooms are awesome.
So I actually ventured down that path a couple months ago, is actually maybe about a year ago now. So I'm in the process of wrapping my truck right now, in addition to adding services that are additional to the store, so we can actually go out and do services. But I did look into building the rooms, and the problem that I came across was there's two types of customers that I came across that actually need rooms built. The ones that don't care, whatever it costs, do it, I want it done, great. Very rare to find. Or the other side of the customer was they need a huge commercial space and they need it this big, and these are all the specs, and I just didn't have the manpower to be able to handle that. So eventually I would love to be able to have a team that we could set up rooms, we could do greenhouses, we could do all of that stuff. But maybe next year.
Yeah, no, that sky's the limit. Like you said, it's this big and the world is huge.
Yeah.
That just means that the possibilities are endless. So
Yeah, and I look at all different aspects of it too. Like I don't know if you knew this or not, but I created a grow journal. Like, I actually have a grow journal published on Amazon. So it was just one of those things that I used to track my grow. So the strain that started it all was New York City Diesel. So I would just smoke that, and it would just like open my mind. Like, whoo, like instead of writer's block, I would just think of good ideas and I'd write them down. My whole store was built on New York City Diesel. No lie. So my goal was to try to replicate that strain, and I didn't know what I put into it. I didn't know the conditions. I didn't know, like, I've tried to grow it a couple times and it's never been the same. So I created this grow journal for myself to track what I'm putting into it, so I can actually replicate that and have that same exact feeling as I did the first time. So a couple customers I've started talking about it with, and they're like, you should actually make that and sell it. We'd be interested in using it. So I did that about 6 months ago.
Nice. Do you sell them in store as well?
Yeah, so we have a soft cover and a hard cover in store, and then we have the soft cover and hard cover on Amazon.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
That is very cool. What's it run?
$20 for the soft cover, or I'm sorry, $10 for the soft cover, $20 for the hard cover.
You doing bulk, like wholesale pricing on it? If
Sure.
many of them were bought. Again, like same thing I was thinking about with the Aurora germination place for my son's school mainly. But that, like the 4-H club or something like that, I'll talk to you offline about that, and I'll probably stop in to actually grab one of them for myself. But
Sure.
I'm like gung-ho about it. And if you don't mind, and if you want, I will put, like, whenever I do the donation, 4-H, Boy Scouts, something I haven't picked, whichever one I'm thinking about. But if you want, your name can be like all over it as well.
Yeah, I'm all about it. If you ever need anything like that, I love donating to stuff like that.
Because
like
I do as much as I can. I'm not going to stop.
No, me neither.
There's no need to. It's, if I can make an impact if I can make some money along the way, get my name out there, maybe I'll be a Joe Rogan someday, or maybe you'll have a High Times fucking worthy place or something, and you're out of here and you're in a big city. Or if anything can happen that's better than where we are right now, that's awesome. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm I'm positive that if we provide the youth or the uninformed, I guess I should say, because I'm not talking specifically to kids here, that
Right.
I think that they will do better, regardless of if they take this as a profession. They'll know how to do these at their house. It'll get them outside. Maybe after that they start building a flower box. Maybe after that they pick up a hammer and they start doing their own stuff. Maybe they grow their own food, like you said.
Sure.
I didn't know that statistic until you said it. That's pretty insane.
Pretty
I
wild,
don't
right?
eat a lot of vegetables, but it's still insane that we did rely on our own stuff that much back then. So
50 years ago.
that's crazy. Yeah, and it's crazy that you said 50 years ago. Shit, I was sitting here in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, that's like 30 years ago. No,
Yeah.
that's 50. That's 60 years ago.
Yeah, we're
Jesus,
closer to 2050 than we are to 2020 or than to 2000.
fucking old, man.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. It's so you don't mind like if this gets posted on like an Instagram? I had you go look at my website. I didn't want you to think that I was in it just to burn bud all damn day.
Well,
I do post content that I think is great. I love looking at it. It's one of the most beautiful plants I've ever seen in my life. My top 10 plants, not
absolutely.
not the most pretty I've ever seen, but it's definitely the best I've ever smelled,
Oh
so
yeah, you can't beat that
yeah.
smell.
No, and your fingers smelling so nice. It's definitely something that I try to push out there. I like to show updates on everything. Uh,
That's
we're
one thing I
not.
mean, is updates. Like I don't
It's
ever take
hard.
pictures of my plants. Like I should post some of my grows, and it would probably behoove me to get my story out there if I were to actually post on social media.
Mhm.
That's my goal for this year is to start trying to get some more awareness. I've been trying to
Yeah, no,
build
it's hard.
credibility first before I start telling people about it.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. So I don't have so I have what do I got here? I got two plants here in my tent, and then I have my brother is my designated caregiver, because believe it or not, my hands do hurt from working and having to like fucking do all that stuff. I
Oh,
type all day.
absolutely.
So he's the designated caregiver, and he's also got his card. So we've got our 12 over there. So 6, 12, yeah, 12 over there. And getting him to take pictures is like pulling teeth. He's like, "What do you mean? Why do I gotta take pictures?" I'm like, I gotta do it, man. I want to show everybody what this is. Like, it's not me and you
Absolutely.
sitting in a dungeon. I call it the dungeon dank, but like, we're not in a dungeon with like balls and chains and needles in the corner or something. Because I always think people think there's like a crack pipe and a needle sitting right next to the
Right.
people who are smoking dope.
Right.
And I don't like that when people say smoking dope, they don't think marijuana, they think fucking crack or something.
Right.
Because I mean, it blows my mind. Like, small town, growing up, everybody knowing you're smoking, it's like you might as well have been smoking crack. So
Oh yeah,
to
you
this
were immediately
day,
labeled.
yeah, it irks me still to this day. Like, adults, like their kids have like gone on. We're all successful. I've never been arrested ever in my life. Oh, like talking shit. Like, come on, dude. Like, are you serious? Like, are we all not adults here?
Yep. Well, that's what
So
it comes down to. Like one of my biggest things that I helped or that's helped me once I left law enforcement was just getting away from a lot of the negativity. Like when I came to this side of it now, the cannabis side, whatever. So I'm pro cannabis, whatever. Doesn't
mhm.
mean like I live, breathe, and die by it. It's just part of my life now, But my mom was absolutely like, I can't believe that because she was
Yeah.
on weed's bad, blah blah blah. And now every time she sees a news article, she sends it to me, even if it has nothing to do with anything. Like she'll read the headline and be like, "Hey, here's an article." Like, do you even read what that meant? But thank you. So now she's supportive, but it's just she was one of those people that I really had to like spoon feed the education side of it too, just so because she was ignorant about a lot of things. But that was that generation growing up. You know what I mean?
For
Where
sure.
dope was dope. Where realistically, used to tell my chief, you want to get rid of police relations with the community? Let cops smoke weed again, or let cops smoke weed. He's like, huh? Like, just let cops smoke weed, even if it's off duty. I could give you a list that's a scroll of cops that are alcoholics. That's not a problem, but what do I know?
Yeah, no, I thought for the longest time, like, well, not the longest time, but when me and my wife were talking about it, I was thinking, I was like, is tobacco or alcohol scheduled as anything? It's not even a scheduled drug, period. It's not, it like that means it's not at risk to be abused, I believe, right?
Because
Like
it
that's
wasn't
what that
profitable.
means. There you go. Yeah, it's insane. Like, but it has that no waste aspect to it, to where it's and I had heard that growing up, some old timer decided that hemp was too insane and it was too unprofitable for paper companies,
Mm-hmm.
that they started the whole war on marijuana and war on drugs. uh yeah, so yeah, I've known that for a while. It's crazy. I mean, you can use it for mulch. You can use it for anything. I've made a pencil out of it one time,
Yeah.
stealing it out of a freaking yellow bicycle pencil. It's wonderful.
And it
It's one.
doesn't discriminate against anybody either. Like, you can come into my store and find a whole variety of different people that are in there, because there's old, there's young, there's black, there's white, there's Asian, there's Hispanic, because it doesn't discriminate against anybody.
Right.
Weed brings people together. You know what I mean? Like, you could have a bunch of people that hate each other, but if they're all potheads and somebody sparks up a joint, we're all friends for the minute, right?
Yep. Putting that chair down. There's that meme where this guy like just folds out that chair and just sits right down in the circle. It's fosters conversation. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's just
wouldn't
like
probably have
smoking.
talked to you, unless if you're all the way in Canada, well, I'm all the way out here. It's going to get people talking about the different strains, the genetics,
Yeah.
I'm starting to dive into that myself. I was never big into the genetics. You being into that's awesome. I hope you have best of luck. I'm trying to figure out how right now to get, and I'll say I want a Gorilla Glue, and I want to like cross it with a White Widow just for the pure fact of saying I can.
Right.
And I want to call it ancient silverback or something like that.
There you go.
I like making names for things. So yeah, that's the next venture I've got. That's for my this year coming up. That's what I'm gonna do.
No,
I
awesome.
do
There's so many.
yeah, I've actually entered some bud into excuse me, the New York State Home Growers Championship up in Basin, New York. That's uh really being in that and knowing that I was going to be there and wanting to have a presence actually got me going, thinking about doing interviews, doing podcasts, things like that, to get it to also boost anybody who might be going or want to go into going, and talking about it, because I like to talk about it. Don't know if you are interested. If you are, I do have I could give you and your wife tickets to that on June 22nd if you wanted to go.
Yeah, that'd be
um,
cool.
if Yep, it's awesome. Being as you are close, and I do plan on coming out to grab one of those journals, I can just hand them to you. I am telling everybody else, I'm doing a giveaway on Instagram for it. Have trouble with people just like wanting the seed or the pre-rolls, so you got to pick it up on site. You got to be in Basin in New York to come on in and enjoy the time, because it's going to be, I mean, tons of vendors. There's live music, food vendors. It's going to be pretty intense, and there's over 70 different flower entries.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
people entering in their stuff. And then there's also a solvent list, like a rosin, all those pressed ones as well. I don't know the exact total on that, but it's it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet, and I think it's going to be game changing for New York. I went
Yep.
to one down in Whitney Point, no, Chenango Bridge, pretty close to each other. It was like the Broome County Fairgrounds. It was New York State Cannabis Fest. I think it was one of the first ones they did, like 5 tents. That's it. There was like
Hmm.
one food truck, two food trucks, a whole entire fairground. I'm like, this is cool. I'm glad I'm here, but this is sad. How come there's not a shit ton of people here either A, they don't know about it, or B, they're scared and these guys didn't like advertise it good enough.
Yep.
So, and these aren't the same guys or anything like that. I think the other one was, I don't know who it was. I'm not going to talk shade about anybody anyway, but
Sure.
these guys here, they're pushing it. These guys were legacy, you know, they've been in it forever.
Yep.
I've got a loud mouth. I'll push it for them too as well. So
Yeah, why not? I'll tell everybody
yeah.
about
Yeah, no, I really hope that you, and if the wife can't come, awesome. I got 2 tickets. I'll drop them off. You can, you know, one of your workers want to go with you, whatever. It's
Yeah.
be glad to have you. I'm gonna have a booth there as well. Doing a little bit of vending, but like I said, I got one entered into it, and I'm gonna probably try and set up some sort of communication type thing when I'm there. So if anyone wanted to stop by and have like a 10-minute chat or something and do it on live, post it right then and there for the
Cool.
event is sort of like a hype. Yeah, it's going to be off the wall. It's going to be awesome.
I give you a lot of credit, man, because I've been getting told for a long time, like, you got to do like a podcast or a blog or do something. And I give you a lot of credit, you know, like I don't have that side of it, you know what I mean? Like some people.
Well, you're talking fine. That's the couple of the people I've had on it. Like I said, I haven't launched yet because I'm not good at editing. So once I get enough of them to have like an end of the year, I don't have to worry about filming anything. I can focus on learning more editing. I've seen like everybody saying like, oh man, I can't do this, but all it is talking. You're doing great. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it either. I mean, I sat down and I stutter and my mouth is like, I don't know if you can see it. I'm twiddling my fucking fingers.
You're doing great, dude.
So are you. So that's what I mean. Like anybody can do this. I'll have you on again. I don't care. You know, I want to do more lives after I get more comfortable, after everybody else gets more comfortable. I ask everybody at the end, like, so are you okay with me posting this? And I'm looking for honesty, because if they say no, I won't. No harm, no foul. I haven't gone out and said, be on the lookout. Me and Homegrown Hydroponics are going to be here at 1 p.m. And then people saying, oh, these son of a bitch didn't show it. Like, I'm not advertising it until I know that I'm not going to say good enough, but I'm providing an atmosphere where someone feels comfortable enough in what we've talked about to say, go ahead and post it. So thank you very much for I didn't know if you were going to do it. I was like, I wonder if like he saw the website and he thinks I'm like a fucking jackass.
No, listen, man.
My neighbor's like, he's vetting you, man. He's vetting you, dude. He's for real. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Let's hope he calls me, man. I hope he texts me. So
I am kind of picky about the people that I do talk about for some things, just because there have been a couple situations in the past where they tried to bait me into some shit. You know what I mean? So right. I don't care. I just don't want somebody to have a bad look for anything, you know? And the hardest thing is, as a small business owner and as a business owner, doing anything that's productive, really, the hardest part is just starting. You know what I mean? Like, my biggest thing is I wanted everything to be perfect when that store opened. And it was for what I thought it was, but it doesn't even look even close to how it looked when I first opened. But the biggest thing is I started. You know, if there's been so many things that I've had throughout my entire life, even as a police officer, I'm like, oh, I should do this. I should do this. Oh, man, make all these plans and just didn't do it. So even if it sucks, even if it's not good in the beginning, just do it. You know, like when I was in the military, they always used to beat into our head, like, once you stop moving, you're dead. You know, like, just keep moving. As long as you can do something, just move. Even if it's crawling, you can't walk, crawl. You can't crawl, pull yourself across. Just do something that's moving in the right direction, you know? Right. So, and I'm just super proud that you did it. And I think it's going to be super successful because you're doing it, you know, and you're doing it right. And you're trying to get everything the way it should be. So I applaud that.
I appreciate that. I hope you would consider coming back on in the future.
Absolutely.
If you do show up at the place, I mean, I got a spot for you. You can hang out. I'm going to have my brother there, my wife will be there, his wife, couple friends, make some burgers and some dogs next to everybody else. It's a pretty intense community, but you know, everyone's there for the same reason. I mean, there's 70 people entering, and I don't think anyone's going to be pissed if they lose. No, I'm not winning. You know what I mean? I'm not winning.
There's some great growers in the area too.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to see. You know, I want maybe pick up some real nice genetics of something I see out there, or talk to somebody who's who's looking to get on here or experience something different. Maybe like, I just can't get this out there. I got this thing here. Well, let's go talk about it. Let's do something. I think the Root Nerds fellas might come out as well. That Germinator guys. And I know Homegrown Magazine's going to be out there, so it's sort of like you guys could play off each other. Homegrown Hydroponics and Homegrown Magazine. He's based out of Missouri, so he's actually traveling pretty far to come up here. So I think if I can get you both at the same place as well, maybe there's a little bit of a collab you guys could do there for namesake. Who knows?
Sure. I just want everybody to succeed in the community. I'm not one of those guys like, I got to beat out my competitor. Like, I want everybody to do well. You know what I mean? Like,
there's enough.
Yeah. I reached out to all the hydroponic stores in the area. Like before I even opened, like saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to do. Just because my construction business went really well because I networked with people, instead of having my competitor talk shit about me, I took them out to lunch. Like, how can we work together? How can I pass jobs to you? So I figured I'd try to do that same thing with the stores, and none of them wanted to do anything together. They're all like, But one of them out of all of them was absolutely a complete dickhead. And I'm not going to mention which one it was, but he's like, I'm going to open a store right next to you in Canada. I'm going to blow you out of the water. Like, you're a nobody. And I'm like, whoa, bro, calm down. So you get those guys in the industry too that just want absolutely nothing to do with anything because they think they're God's gift. So I look at it as I'm ignorant. I don't know anything. So the more I can learn, the better,
Right. Yeah. Those are the people looking for that 38% and that are just angry waking up.
Yeah. And there's a small community, like there's really like three communities in the cannabis industry. There's the people that grow that nobody ever knows about, that nobody wants to know about, except for like a hand select few, and those are the old timers. So I have those customers that nobody knows about. And then I have the customers that's like, it's a big secret, like my genetics are a secret, how I do things are a secret. I don't want to tell anybody anything. And then there's the guys but everybody knows they're doing it and they're the best at it. Right. And then there's the people in the middle like me that's just like, sweet, man, let's just all be cool. Like, I'll teach you how to do this, or hey, I got a tip or a trick for this, or hey, I got these seeds. You want to try this, or you want to try this? Like, that's the majority.
That's cool. Show me how you did that, or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've become really good friends with some of my customers. Like, one of my customers, I'm probably better friends with him than most of my close friends that I've had. It's just you find the right people in the right community, and it's the right atmosphere, and things just line up. Right. I'm lucky to have built that and continuing to build that.
Well, I look forward to seeing what comes of the store. Like you said, maybe one day, see how big you get.
Absolutely. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, right. And I look forward to seeing you when I come in to do the journal. If you're not there, I'll leave those tickets there at your desk. And
just shoot me a text so I can make sure I'm there for you.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. And then be on the lookout for another talk request or something, because I'm always looking to chit chat. If anything pops up on your end that you want to chat about, I can always do a live too. That's just like an immediate post. So those are always options if you got something and you don't want to throw it on your page right off the bat while you work on kinks or whatnot. That. So we'll keep in touch, man. Thank you again for your time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
If you need anything, let me know.
Sounds good, man. It was nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too, dude.
Yeah.